Now on Coast TV News.
Water on the roads from Long Neck to Bethany will take you to the worst flooding.
Empty shelves, local food banks running dry, while those on SNAP say the benefits are not enough.
Well, the rains have come to an end, but the winds are still acting up, as my grandmother would say.
This is Coast TV News at 5.
Roadways to rivers in Bethany Beach after a storm. Good evening. I'm Madeline Overturf.
And I'm Charlie Sakaitis. We begin tonight with areas known for flooding hit again today.
This road in Long Neck covered in water, and we saw that in multiple neighborhoods in the area after the storm. Coast TV News reporter Brandon Ferguson live in Long Neck. Brandon, high tide was just over an hour ago.
Maddie, we're in one of the Potts Nets communities, and I want you to look behind me. You see this reflection? This is all water sitting in the middle of the road. And on this side of your screen, you can see water into the driveway of a few folks' home here in this community. And when it comes to wind damage, some light wind damage and flooding, that didn't just happen here in Long Neck. It also happened on some communities right along the coast.
Driving through sitting water to leave your neighborhood. That's what Dawn Seton and everyone in Mariners Cove had to do today.
The last storm, we needed a canoe, for real.
Seton says the wind was the big problem for this storm compared to others.
This one isn't that bad. This is mild compared to what we do get.
Jack Duke lives 2 streets over in Mariners Cove. Duke says depending on the wind, a good amount of water can sit in the road.
When the water comes up onto the street and the wind's blowing from the northeast, it blows it down the street. So you might see like 3 or 4 inches in the middle of the street.
I want you to follow me down Sussex Lane here in Long Neck and take a look at the trash cans knocked over from the wind from the storm. And look at the current here on the ground. Solid flow of water going across the road here. And we spoke with neighbors in this neighborhood. They said this storm was nothing compared to the last storm this year. And I want you to check out this. Water just sitting here on what used to be a driveway and a front yard.
Flooding and light damage wasn't just limited to Long Neck. Dune fencing damaged in Rehoboth Beach. You can see how high on shore the waves are from the north end of the boardwalk in Rehoboth Beach. Heading down the coast from Rehoboth, in Bethany Beach, water takes over Pennsylvania Avenue.
It all floods. Most streets around the area, they start flooding the closer you're to the coastal, to the sea.
Causing roads to close for the second time in 2 weeks.
People in this neighborhood tell me they're grateful that this storm wasn't as bad as the nor'easter that came through Delmarva just 2 weeks ago. And when talking to people about preparing for this storm and the winds, they told me they just brought in a few of their Halloween decorations. Live in Long Neck, Brandon Ferguson, Coast TV News.
Moving along the coast to Ocean City, downtown was hit by flooding as the storm rolled through, but crews were busy pushing sand that washed into the inlet parking lot back onto the beach. Meanwhile, for passers-by, it was just a sight to see as rough waves crashed into the coast during the storm.
It's great.
It's angry. We love it. We love it.
We just need to get some fries at Thrasher's and come and sit and watch.
Couple salty dogs there enjoying the weather. Now let's take a look into Ocean City. You can still see what's pushing onto the sand there from the ocean as we check in with our first alert chief meteorologist, Paul Williams.
Right now, we're taking a look at the tail of the tape as far as the amount of rain that fell. 1 1/3 for us in Lewes and Indian River Inlet, over an inch for us in Delmar, Georgetown, Bethany Beach, just shy of that. Same holds true for us for Rehoboth. Wide scale view, we had an inch, 1.08 inches of rain fell officially in Ocean City, just shy of a full inch at our official site located in Georgetown. Some other numbers to pass along to you: over 1 1/4 in Harbison, over an inch for us in Dagsboro, Stockley, as well as Ellendale, and just shy of that, Laurel and Greenwood. The rain right now has moved on to the east and out of the way, but we have advisories dealing with wind that we're still concerned with, particularly for Friday. So we're looking at howling conditions. Listen, the gale wind warning will now be extended until Saturday, actually, along the coast. And that's just the beginning of the howling of things for Halloween.
Paul, thank you. The Cape May Lewes ferry says it's canceling certain departures tomorrow due to expected weather conditions. Here's a look out at the ferry terminal there in Lewes. The ferry says no boats are leaving Cape May at 9:30 and 1. Also no boats leaving from Lewes 11:15 and 2:45 p.m.
In Delaware, around 120,000 people rely on food stamps known as SNAP benefits. Coast TV News reporter Emma Aiken is live in Georgetown. Emma, people on SNAP tell you it's not enough.
Charlie, for some people we spoke with today, grocery shopping is now something that requires strategy because while the benefits are appreciated, they're not enough to survive on. And here in Delaware have only been funded for another month. We spoke with one woman, Hope Davis, who uses SNAP with no disability and adult children. She receives around $295 per month from the state on this card to be used for certain groceries, but not everything like hot or prepared foods. And it does not apply to household items. The amount of money people get from SNAP depends on their income in relation to the poverty level, the amount of children they have, and if they're disabled. Davis says relying on just SNAP is a scary way to live.
There's massive uncertainty on where that next meal is going to come from.
According to the state, 1 in 9 Delawareans are on these food stamps, and that does not include WIC. Reporting live here in Georgetown, Emma Aiken, Coast TV News.
This brings us into our Coast TV poll for the evening. We want to know, should the federal government reimburse states for SNAP funding?
Let's take a look at the results so far. 49% say no, and 51% say yes.
If you haven't voted yet, you can go do that. You can also leave comments. You can do that at coasttv.com or use our mobile app.
President Trump making a surprise announcement about nuclear testing moments before meeting with China's president for the first time in 6 years.
The pair met face-to-face in South Korea in an attempt to wind down a trade war between the world's two largest economies.
As NBC's Monica Alba reports, President Trump relaxed the tariff rate on imported Chinese goods a bit, saying he thinks China is sincere about helping stem the flow of fentanyl into the U.S.
Returning home, President Trump calling his Asia trip a big success that culminated with his high-stakes meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
So on the scale of from 0 to 10, with 10 being the best, I would say the meeting was a 12.
But just before the meeting, the president ordered the Pentagon to immediately start testing nuclear weapons for the first time in 30 years. He said to be on an equal basis with China and Russia, but later saying it had nothing to do with China. That announcement, though, didn't seem to affect the talks. The president saying the two sides agreed on a number of trade issues, but did not sign anything formal.
We have a deal. Now every year we'll renegotiate the deal.
And in that deal, the president says China agreed to hold off on export controls on rare earth minerals for a year. They're used in everything from electronics to car seats. China dominates the global supply. Another tense topic, fentanyl. Trump says Xi agreed to do more to stop the flow of chemicals used to make the drug from coming into the U.S.
We agreed that he was going to work very hard to stop the flow. You know, it's a very complex subject because it's used for lots of different reasons.
And in exchange, the president lowered the tariff on Chinese goods from 57% to 47%. The Treasury Secretary praising President Trump for what he calls a big win for American farmers. China putting in large orders for American soybeans over the next 3 years.
They backed President Trump, and they knew that he had their back.
Democrats say not so fast.
China is still buying fewer soybeans this year from the U.S. than before China's trade war. How is that a win for soybean farmers?
While Congress has been at an impasse over the government shutdown, Democrats and Republicans did come together in a rare gesture of bipartisanship and voted to block President Trump's global tariffs and restore congressional authority over trade. 4 Republicans joined Democrats to pass the measure, though it's not expected to go to the House. Monica Alba, NBC News, Washington.
Picking up the pieces, island nations rocked by Hurricane Melissa are now working on recovery in the wake of the storm.
We'll update you on Melissa's movement and some movement of some winds causing problems for us right here at home.
But first, bringing history to life in 3D, the new artwork in Lewes catching attention. Up next.
Lewes has a new way to tell stories, not through words, but through art. And in this week's Coastal Connections, Elisa Weber takes us to the Lewes Historical Museum, where they've got a new mural that is telling the story of the first town in the first state.
A colorful mural now adorns the front of the Lewes Historical Museum, highlighting key moments in the city's rich history. Being chosen by Art and Bloom to create it was an honor artist Michael Rosado took very seriously.
Whenever I paint a mural, I think about that. How will the viewer engage in this, and when I'm painting, and it's very satisfying when that engagement is positive, and you get positive feedback. It means that you were successful in your interpretation, and it's. And I take the responsibility of painting, especially for other communities, very important. It's something that I embrace wholeheartedly, mind, body, soul.
From Native Americans to Lewis's shipbuilding heritage, the artwork truly comes to life, so much so that you might do a double take, thinking parts of the painting, like the raccoon or the goldfinch, are actually real. Creating a mural like this is no easy task. Rosado spent more than 400 hours bringing the project to life, but he says the hard work is always worth it.
Call it the humility of preparation. If you prepare yourself well, for telling a story, usually by the end you'll have a successful, product.
Rosado says small American towns are often the best to paint for, as he finds they're often hidden gems and a melting pot for ideas. And of course, Lewes was no exception.
There's so much American history, in Lewes. You've got, the gambit. It's like a sweeping epic of a novel, in one little town. When you have that much history in a small town, there are so many rich stories, and it just makes the process of telling that story a lot easier.
This painting tells 5 stories of Lewes, from Native Americans hunting and gathering, the arrival of the Dutch, the city's role in the Underground Railroad, and finally, Lewis's rich maritime and shipbuilding history. Each scene is as captivating as the next.
And that's what I love about designing. The design process is that you think about all these little things. How do you engage the viewer to learn the story? And I know a little kid's going to come up here and say, "Mom, a bird," and then he's going to say, "Look at the boy," and then what's going on, and ask questions. That's the way I like to design it. I like it to, I want it to invite you in to learn it, and to be engaged with it, and then be kind of either blown away or, just enjoy.
The next time you're in Lewes, take a moment to appreciate this work of art. There's a good chance it'll inspire you to learn more about the first town in the first state. For Coastal Connections, I'm Elisa Weber.
It's true that this nor'easter wasn't as bad as others, but it was bad enough to catch our attention in a major way. It's been a bona fide yellow alert day, if there ever was one. In Lewes, 70 degrees, dew point 63, an abundance of moisture still in place. For tonight, dropping to 58 degrees with clouds beginning to clear. Quick look at some of the rainfall totals. Over 1 1/3 for us in Lewes, Indian River Inlet, over an inch of rain for us in Delmar, Georgetown, and just shy of that, Bethany Beach and Rehoboth Beach. A wider view of what's happened across Delmarva. We had over an inch of rain in Ocean City, just shy of it at our official site in Georgetown at 0.98. A few other numbers to run by you. Over an inch of rain for us in Harbison, Dagsboro, Stokely, as well as Ellendale, and just shy of an inch for us in Laurel, as well as Greenwood. The rain is now out of the way, but the winds will stay in the way. Wind advisory in effect for Rehoboth Beach, Indian Beach, as well as Lewes, really all of Sussex, along with the gale wind warning. Now that's a combo deal. Over the water, we're watching out for 40-mile-per-hour winds. Over the land, we're watching for at least 30 to 35-mile-per-hour winds. So that's where that comes into play. Then we also still have an extended coastal flood advisory in effect for Snow Hill, Ocean City, and those areas, and a coastal flood warning for places like Madison, Nanticoke, as well as Lakewood. But overall, that rain is now carrying out of the way with this triple point right here, in case you're wondering what that is. That's pulling everything out towards the northeast and out of the way. Now, it's kind of ironic. Last year, we had about the same time, we had 43 days of trace amounts of precipitation, but this year, a lot better. But keep in mind, as we go into Friday morning, we start off cloudy, then we end up clear with 61 degrees, but the winds out of the west moving towards the east. For Saturday, we're going to stay pretty clear, but we'll warm to the lower 60s once again. But the winds, that's another thing. Nearly 40-mile-per-hour winds recorded for us in Georgetown as well as Ocean City. And the winds are pushing out of the south for right now. But as you take a look at our forecast, we're looking for that zonal flow to continue, 30-mile-per-hour winds to kick in. But by Friday, we're back to 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts for Friday. So we're not out of the woods yet with that. And then a nice November weekend expected as high pressure stays in control of our weather. And we could possibly see a little frost in some areas. Here's a quick look at your 7-day forecast. Very breezy and howling winds on Friday. I wait all year long just to say that one time. Howling winds. And then we fall back. By the way, back to a little bit of seriousness. Hey, with Hurricane Melissa, now it's been graduated back to a Category 2 and expect to continue to swing out towards deeper water. But the path, just in case you're wondering, over 500 miles away from us. The trail of devastation across the Caribbean following Hurricane Melissa has been just mind-boggling. The storm was one of the most powerful Atlantic hurricanes in more than 150 years. At least 30 people have died, and we anticipate more, unfortunately. And as Michael Yoshida reports, the hurricane is continuing towards Bermuda as others start the recovery process.
Devastation across Jamaica. Homes destroyed and neighborhoods underwater. Infrastructure left failing after Hurricane Melissa slammed into the country as a powerful Category 5 storm. Whipping winds and unrelenting rain battered the country. The southern and western sides of the island feeling the full force of the hurricane.
The entire infrastructure and everything needed for the convenience of modern living is destroyed.
Caravans of vehicles seen as first responders and others tried to make their way through the aftermath. Officials saying it could take days or weeks to determine the full toll of Melissa.
The supermarkets, the bakery, everything has been washed away.
The Bahamas, Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Haiti also impacted by torrential flooding rain and powerful winds. Across the Caribbean, at least 30 people have died as rescue and recovery missions are underway. Emergency crews are also rushing to restore power and begin the cleanup.
The situation here is devastating. We need all in help that we can. And conditions are going to deteriorate as the day progresses.
Several international efforts have launched to aid in the recovery. The United Kingdom, China, and United States announced humanitarian funding and resources will be sent to those affected across the Caribbean.
So keep the positive outlook, keep hope alive, and we will get through this and we will rebuild better.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida.
Coming up on DSN at 6 p.m., another chance to catch the spirit of the shore. And then at 6:30, tune in for high school football pregame show, Scoops and Scores. At 7, live Henlopen Conference football when Cape travels to Caesar Rodney. Then at the final score, that's at 10:30. And on DSN Plus, along with that Cape game, here are your exclusives. It's a full night of high school football. At 6 p.m., Kent Island facing Queen Anne's. At 6:30, Cambridge South Dorchester takes on Eton. And at 7, Sussex Tech visits Laurel. Coming up, interest rates dropping, what it does and doesn't mean for home buyers after the recent quarter-point cut by the Fed. Stay tuned on Coast TV News at 5.
In traffic news, get ready for nighttime road closures in the Forgotten Mile area of Rehoboth Beach. DelDOT says the area on your screen now, Robinson's Drive and Anna B. Street between Coastal Highway and Fisher Street, will be closed for milling and paving. They say work will start November 3rd and end the 4th from 6 to 6.
Good news for prospective home buyers. U.S. mortgage rates have fallen for the 4th time in as many weeks. According to Freddie Mac, the average 30-year fixed mortgage is now 6.17%. That is the lowest rate this year. The decline follows the Federal Reserve's decision on Wednesday to cut its benchmark interest rates by a quarter point. However, Fed Chair Jerome Powell says an additional cut by the central bank is not certain for December.
Let's take a live look outside into Dover. One more check on your forecast after this.
Tidal Health camera in Salisbury, it's 69 degrees actually. And as you take a look at what's happening overall, we're seeing that the rain, the precipitation is no longer a factor for us, but we do still have concern for gale wind warnings across a good portion of our viewing area. Along with that, we're concerned about the wind advisory staying active and the coastal flood advisories and warnings throughout all the peninsula. Michael O'Reilly of Greenwood, congratulations. You're our umbrella giveaway winner, courtesy of Paul Davis Restoration Home Remodeling. Keep up with your forecast by calling our weather line, sponsored by Brockstead, Dallas and Federico. And here's a look at your exclusive 10-day forecast, howling winds on Friday.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. And hey, thank you all for joining us here for Coast TV News at 5.
For more news, more local weather, download our Coast TV News app.
Inside Edition is up next.
We'll see you later tonight for Coast TV News at 6. Have a great evening.